At 35, I had experienced job loss, illness, and betrayal. In my darkest hour, my husband pushed the divorce papers in front of me. "Grace," he said, "I'm exhausted by this marriage. Let go." The indifference in his eyes brought me crashing back to reality. My beloved, it turned out, had already made a home elsewhere. How I wished I could, like in a classic drama, slap him hard, sign the papers with a flourish, and turn away with dignity. But I couldn't. Because it was my mother who was sick. So, I picked up my resolve, and in the end, transformed myself into a dragon. After brought up divorce, I secretly looked through his cell phone. When all the photos appeared, my limbs felt rigid. The girl who called him my Marcus had a radiant face. They walked hand in hand through the blue mountains, crossed lake. They shared a single ice cream cone, and had even secretly built a love nest. The cell phone slipped from my trembling fingers, splat, a sharp sound shattered the silent night. Marcus woke up. He didn't panic, instead, he met my gaze calmly. "Since you know everything," he said, "let's get a divorce. I don't want the house and cars, I just want 500,000 in cash. If you agree, I'll sign right now." I stared intently at the man I had once shared intimate moments with, my voice trembling as I spoke. "Marcus, you deliberately left your cell phone unlocked just so I'd see your affair?" He quickly got up to pack his luggage. "I don't love you anymore. An early end is better for everyone." I lunged at him, like a madwoman. "Dream on. I'll never get a divorce. I won't let you and that woman win." Marcus shoved me away. "It doesn't matter. If you can accept it, I don't mind living two lives." And just like that, my man left me. Left this home. He left so definitively. He didn't even spare a glance for our two children. Could I accept it? I didn't know. This night was the darkest moment of my life. When one loses a sense of urgency, crisis is not far behind. Youth fails to grasp its meaning, but middle age reveals all. At 35, it was my husband's career ascent. He was director promoted to CEO. He had a 7-figure salary, handsome and wealthy. My own 35, however, saw my career stalled, my body's functions declining. Not only was my chest sagging, but my face seemed to have drooped as well. When my mom was diagnosed with late-stage cancer, I was facing layoffs. After switching jobs, my salary plummeted from 20,000 to 8,000. I simply resigned to focus on caring for my mom. But now, with what would I care for my mom? Imperceptibly, dawn broke. Light illuminated the wall by the bed. Our family of 4, once so beautiful. I had seen the way he loved me. For 10 years, everyone around us said that all men in the world change their hearts, but Marcus wouldn't. The truth proved that all of us had severely underestimated human nature. The alarm clock rang. Even though my life was already riddled with holes, the relentless, non-stop demands of motherhood never allowed for time off. I dragged my leaden body up and moved mechanically in the kitchen. At the dining table, the children's playful noise kept pricking at my nerves. The moment the bowl of oatmeal was knocked over, the taut string finally snapped. "Everyone, shut up." I violently overturned the table and chairs, unleashing all my pent-up despair onto this home. The entire house instantly fell silent. The two children were so scared they went quiet. My daughter, trembling, hugged my leg. "Mommy, don't be angry. I'm scared." I collapsed onto the floor and cried for a long time, before reaching out to hug them tightly. My elder daughter had tears in the corners of her eyes, and my son tightly clutched my clothes. He was still so young that he thought Mom being angry meant their world had ended. Yes, this long battle had only just begun. The one who promised to stand by me for life was the first to abandon the fight. On the way to St. Jude's hospital, I sent Marcus a text message. "I want to see her." "Who?" "That woman." After a long pause, he replied, "Don't stir up trouble. I pursued her, it has nothing to do with her." My heart was sharply pierced. My former lover brazenly told me he had fallen for someone else. The feeling was truly like 1,000 arrows piercing my heart. But I had to stay calm, because I knew I couldn't afford to prolong this war of attrition. In a divorce case, getting more doesn't necessarily mean winning. The more you're allotted, the heavier the future burden you have to carry. Given my current situation, my mother's late-stage pancreatic cancer required constant care. My father had passed away years ago. Did I still have the ability and energy to properly care for 2 children? The answer was brutal and clear. The reflection in the mirror looked like all the light had been drained from me overnight, aging me by more than 10 years. At noon, I appeared downstairs from Marcus's sterling company. When he saw me, a flicker of panic crossed his eyes. I walked up to him, trying to force a smile. "Don't be nervous. I'm not here to make a scene. Since we're divorcing, let's find a place and sort out the finances. We had 2 marital properties, 2 cars, and over $1 million in savings. He said he only wanted $500,000 in cash. But the large house came with a huge mortgage. In the current market, the house's value might not even cover the mortgage. This wasn't an asset, it was clearly a hot potato. So, I personally tore this home into 2 halves. When I pushed the division plan in front of him, Marcus paused slightly. What do you mean by this? I forced down the lump in my throat. Since this day was bound to come, let's both be more realistic. I met his gaze steadily. Over the 10 years of our marriage, the critical illness insurance policy I bought for you had twice the coverage of my own, with a cumulative cash value of over $350,000. Furthermore, the portion of your employer-sponsored retirement plan your company provided is also considered a marital asset to be divided. His tone was impatient. I can give up all our marital assets, but you have no reason to take a share of these. I gently shook my head. Assets are accumulated by 2 people together. I have no reason to take everything. After 10 years together, I don't want to end up with nothing but bitter resentment and petty squabbles. He heard my words, and his gaze shifted slightly. I pressed on. You'll need to live somewhere, you can't be without a place to stand. That smaller house, though only 90 square meters, has its mortgage paid off and is valued at around $2.8 million. The larger one, while impressive, still has nearly $3 million in mortgage, making its actual net value negative. I pushed the documents closer to him. So, I'll give you half of this small house without a mortgage, and the best car will also be yours. All the insurance annuities in your account will be unrelated to me. This distribution should be fairer to you. He finally looked patiently at the documents in his hand. What do you mean, half? The house is yours, and you give me $1.4 million in cash. Yes. This was my initial plan. Marcus's brow furrowed deeper and deeper. Ridiculous. We have $1.5 million in marital assets in the account. Where am I supposed to get another $1.4 million for you? The next second, I pulled out the property deed for the smaller house. You can mortgage it. It's only $1.4 million. If I cancel your insurance and sell your land, it should be enough. You know I don't have the ability to pay the mortgage. I need to pay off what I owe the City National. Marcus finally looked seriously at the divorce papers in his hand. He had originally intended to leave with nothing, but I insisted on pushing assets onto him. It seemed, from every angle, that Marcus shouldn't refuse. I'll discuss it with Chloe. Chloe. That was her name. Okay, I'll be waiting for you. Yes, this divorce negotiation seemed remarkably smooth. We were all civilized people. There was no need for a bitter fight to the death. Just then, his cell phone rang. He quickly got up to answer it. That tension and focus, it was exactly like him 10 years ago, when he was falling in love. Tears blurred my vision without me realizing it. But I clearly knew what I was doing. This scene, on the contrary, solidified my resolve. An amicable parting was simply out of the question for me. Because you didn't deserve it. Much later, he returned and picked up his jacket. Any other demands? I have something urgent to attend to. I nodded. One last thing, the children, I don't want them. He paused for 2 seconds, then slowly looked up. What did you say? I met his gaze, my voice firm. In my current situation, I can't give them a normal life. I know you can't either. So, the children will have to go to grandparents' house. Marcus frowned. My parents aren't obligated to raise children. I understand. So, I'll be responsible for hiring a nanny, and you'll be responsible for their living expenses. You won't need to pay me any child support, and grandparents won't be under any pressure. It's fair to everyone. Marcus frowned at me. His cell phone rang again. He glanced at the screen, his tone full of impatience. I have an urgent matter right now. Let's talk another day. Before he finished speaking, he had already turned, his hurried steps disappearing at the door. I knew the name of that urgent matter, Chloe. I needed him to make a decision quickly. So I rushed back to St. Jude's Hospital as quickly as possible and prepaid $300,000 for my mother's surgery. My account balance instantly plummeted, and a text notification was simultaneously sent to Marcus's cell phone. Sure enough, he stormed back that evening, seething with anger. 300,000. You silently poured it all into your mom's surgery. What are you going to use to pay the $3 million mortgage payment in the future? I leaned against the wall, forcing a tired smile at him. So, I'm sorry. That house of yours will probably need an additional $300,000 mortgage. He looked as if he was frozen in place, his expression instantly solidifying. Yes. This was the only way I could force him to sign quickly. He wanted to wear me down with delay tactics, but he forgot that my mother's serious illness was a bottomless pit. From a financial perspective, being tied to me right now would only disadvantage him more. I could go into debt for my mother, but he couldn't. 1.2 million. He almost gritted his teeth as he spat out the number, not a cent more. I asked around, and that house won't even sell for 2.8 million right now. The market is dropping. Fine. Whenever you're ready, we'll go through with the paperwork. A week later, we went together to the county's office to submit our divorce application. To gather the money, he used various high-interest short-term loans. He planned to mortgage the property for repayment once the property title transfer was complete. He was extremely cautious, insisting on delaying the money transfer until the very last day of the cooling-off period for divorce. From the moment he signed the application, he never set foot in this house again. I quickly hired a nanny, making her an anchor in my life as I settled the 2 children. The $6,000 monthly expense was like a huge stone on my shoulders, but this expenditure was my confidence. It was the confidence that I wasn't afraid to temporarily lose the children in a custody battle. To seal the divorce, I didn't immediately send the children to Marcus's parents' house. I had to hold on to this card until that dark red divorce certificate was in my hands. Only then would everything be certain. In the final days of the cooling-off period for divorce, Marcus returned to finalize the property transfer. The house he was allotted had no mortgage, and the paperwork was quickly processed. However, the house under my name still had a mortgage, so it couldn't be transferred immediately. Its ownership could only be explicitly stated in the agreement. The clause stipulated that once I paid off the mortgage, Marcus must unconditionally cooperate with the transfer. Finally, the 1.2 million he promised arrived on schedule. Looking at the cold, hard numbers in the account, I knew the first phase of this battle was over. And a much tougher fight for survival was just beginning. On the afternoon I received the divorce certificate, I appeared at Marcus's parents' house with the nanny and the 2 children. Marcus had clearly been immersed in his new romance during this time and hadn't revealed the details to his parents. Grandma opened the door and was utterly bewildered. "Grace," she said, "it's inevitable for men to have their dalliances outside the home. You can't be impulsive and just abandon your own children. What mother in the world could be so cruel? Ma'am, you can eat dirt, but you can't speak carelessly. I fully cover the nanny's salary, so how can you say I'm abandoning the children?" I turned to the nanny beside me. "Helen, from now on, your salary will still be paid by me. Please make sure to turn on your body camera while working. This is also to protect your rights. Furthermore, if you hear any words aimed at sowing discord between the children and me, please correct them appropriately." Grandma's face instantly changed. "Body camera? What do you mean by this? This is infringing on our privacy." I nodded calmly. "So, to avoid unnecessary trouble, it's best you don't say certain things. If resigns due to an unsuitable work environment, then the burden of caring for the children will, I'm afraid, fall entirely on you too." Then, I turned and walked away decisively, without looking back. The children and the nanny had been together for a month, so they weren't unfamiliar with each other. With acting as a check, even if the grandparents were displeased, they would still be somewhat cautious in their actions. I didn't know if this step was right or wrong. At this point in life, responsibility and obligation were like 2 towering mountains. Unable to balance both, I could only choose to support the side that was about to collapse. 2.5 million lay quietly in the account. But I had no intention of using this money to pay off the mortgage on that spacious condo. My mother's sickbed was a bottomless pit, and this was precisely the most realistic reason for Marcus's definitive departure. Even though custody wasn't in my hands, I absolutely could not be absent from my children's future. So, I had to wait. Waiting for the day I would confront Marcus in county. During this time, I converted a portion of the cash into gold and placed it in a bank safety deposit box. The rest was stored separately. Only the account linked for City National Bank deductions had nothing. What first broke the silence was a collection notice 3 months later, from the City National Bank, sent directly to my cell phone and Marcus's. The current outstanding principal and penalties totaled 45,672 renminbi and 50 cents. "Your credit score has been affected. Please repay within 10 days. He quickly picked up his cell phone and called me. Unfortunately, I had already blocked him. Another month passed. He was preparing to buy Chloe a car. His loan application was instantly rejected by the City National Bank. The loan officer delicately informed him, "Mr. Marcus, I'm very sorry, but the system shows a severely overdue loan record under your name. Approval is currently not possible." Marcus's blood rushed to his head. He snatched the staff member's phone and called me. Grace, what the hell are you doing? Why aren't you paying the mortgage? I glanced at the unknown number and sighed helplessly. I don't have the MO. Nay, sorry. Are you out of your mind? You clearly have money in your account. The voice on the other end was clearly struggling to suppress rage. The money in my account is for saving my mom's life and raising my kids. As for the mortgage payment, I genuinely don't have the capacity right now. I heard his breathing, even that was trembling. We're divorced. That house is yours now, and the debt is yours too. I'll cover the $45,000 for these 3 months for now, but you must transfer it back to me. I sighed regretfully. I'm truly sorry to disappoint you. The other end of the line fell into a sudden, deep silence. After a long time, his voice was filled with disbelief. Grace. How could you be so shameless? Yes. From that moment on, I chose to pick up my resolve and transform myself into a dragon. Was the most satisfying way to punish a scoundrel to make him leave with nothing? No. It was to burden him with massive debt. 1.2 million wasn't enough. 3 million wasn't enough either. 4.2 million was my ultimate goal. How long would that woman love him? We could wait and see. Soon. I received a court summons. Marcus filed his first lawsuit against me, citing post-divorce property disputes as the reason. His demands were very clear. 1. A judgment ordering me to immediately fulfill the divorce agreement and solely bear all subsequent mortgage payments for the spacious condo. 2. A judgment ordering me to immediately repay the mortgage payments he had been forced to cover, totaling 46,000 yuan. 3. That I bear the litigation costs of this case. I appeared in court alone, without hiring a lawyer, because I knew that with clear facts and a clear agreement, I was bound to lose. But it didn't matter. I didn't care about winning or losing at all. It was simply to spite him to death. During the hearing, the judge sternly questioned me. Defendant, the divorce agreement clearly stipulates that you are to bear the mortgage payment. Why are you refusing to fulfill your repayment obligations with the 2.5 million cash you received in your account? I calmly stated, the funds have largely been used for my mother's late-stage cancer treatment and the nanny fees for my 2 young children. I am currently unemployed and have no stable source of income. I acknowledge the debt, but I am objectively unable to fulfill the obligation at present. Bullshit. You clearly have over 2 million in your card. How can you say you have no money? I didn't respond to his roaring. My money was mine. What did it have to do with him? The court judgment was without suspense. I lost the case. The judgment came swiftly. The courthouse ordered me to pay Marcus the 46,000 yuan he had covered within 15 days, and to continue fulfilling my mortgage repayment obligations. Emerging from the county, Marcus had a victor's sneer on his face. Grace, do you see now? You only have 15 days. If you don't have money in your account after 15 days, you'll end up on the credit blacklist. Contempt for the law will cost you dearly. I returned his gaze with a cold smile. Marcus, use your head. Do you think I'm standing here because I'm afraid of this? With that, I turned and walked away, leaving him frozen in place. As soon as 15 days were up, I repaid the entire debt I owed. Then I called Marcus. I paid off the money owed, as per the court judgment. Just as he was preparing to mock, I blurted out, however, I'm formally notifying you that I still won't be paying next month's mortgage payment. You can start preparing the materials for your next lawsuit. I look forward to seeing you in county again. That's right. The City National Bank and the county were 2 different systems. A transfer of creditors' rights wouldn't happen just because our marriage had broken down. I quickly rented out the spacious condo for a price below market value. All rent payments were direct transferred into a separate account I opened for my daughter, specifically for paying the nanny's salary. This completely ignited Marcus's fury. He was nearly beside himself with rage on the other end of the phone. Grace, I'm telling you, given your behavior, when the mortgage on that house is finally paid off, I'll never cooperate. You'll never get sole ownership of that house. I let out a helpless laugh. Marcus, I can't believe you're still trying to understand me with your ridiculous logic. You're wrong. Whose name the house is under is completely irrelevant to me. What do you mean? He was stunned. It means, as long as this house can never be sold or transferred, it will be illegal financial shackles, firmly clamped around your neck. You'll suffer financially for it every month until you and I both grow old. Ultimately, this asset will naturally pass to our children. You can't win, because from the very beginning, I've been playing for my children's future, while you, with every step, were only trying to escape. The day you cheated, you already lost. He fell silent for a long time. I could clearly hear the anger in his breathing. Fine. Very well. Then I'll apply for court-ordered enforcement from the county and auction off the house. As long as the mortgage is paid off, you won't profit in any way." I nodded in approval. "Then let's both join the ranks of credit defaulters. I'll be waiting for you." Without waiting for his response, I hung up the phone. Tears streamed silently down my face. 10 years of marriage, and we had finally forced each other into our most pathetic forms. As expected, the enormous debt under his name ultimately became shackles on his feet. Chloe, the girl named Chloe, never brought up getting married again. Nor did she receive any large gifts. Although wore the halo of a 7-figure salary, his take-home after tax was only $700,000. Previously, the $15,000 monthly interest was bearable, but now, the 1p. Whiteman $2 million short-term mortgage loan almost completely drained all his cash flow. He was unable to provide his new lover with the comfortable life she once had. So, he came looking for me soon enough. The beeping of the heart monitor was life's final countdown. My mother lay there, just a skeleton. As if she would dissipate any second. I couldn't remember how long it had been since I closed my eyes, my mind was a blur. But I still had to summon strength to prepare for the next hearing. Marcus, the man I once loved most. Now, he was like a maggot gnawing at bone, relentlessly tearing away my last shred of dignity while I was vulnerable. Once upon a time, I was also the woman who would run into his arms to cry and complain over the slightest injustice. I, too, needed a shoulder to lean on, a haven where I could temporarily shed all my armor. But he now stood at the door, glaring at me with a contorted face. As his gaze swept over the figure on the hospital room bed, there was a fleeting moment of panic. But he quickly turned his head away. "Grace, come out for a moment. It's time to settle our affairs." My heart clenched. Since the divorce, I had kept it from my mother, only telling her that Marcus was away on a business trip. But she was so smart, how could she not notice? I was just a fool burying her head in the sand, humbly begging, pleading with her to walk a little further with me. After my father passed, she was my last remaining attachment. If she too departed, to whom would I tell my joys and sorrows in the future? The next second, that frail, skeletal hand gently grasped mine. It was my mother. She was awake, and with all her strength, she gently patted the back of my hand. "Go, Mom will wait for you to come back." In that moment, it was like 1,000 arrows piercing my heart. She knew. Her clouded eyes now reflected my disheveled self. It turned out she knew everything. Including what the doctor privately told me. "It'll be these next few days. BPR. Epard." Because of this, I dared not leave for a second. Even when she, with her faint breath, advised, "No more treatment. Don't let Mom drag you all down." But, there was no us left in my world. Bang, the hospital room door was violently kicked open, and Marcus again stood at the entrance, his face contorted in a grimace. "Grace, are you deaf? Do you have to discuss this in front of your mom?" Suddenly, blood rushed to my head. "Get out." But he walked straight to the bedside. "Ma'am, you've certainly raised a fine daughter. She'll stop at nothing for money, driving her former husband to ruin." I quickly got up and tucked in the corner of the blanket. "Mom, I'll be out for a moment. I'll be right back." She nodded ever so slightly, a single tear rolling from the corner of her sunken eye. In that moment, I felt a strange, inexplicable panic. Marcus roughly dragged me out of the hospital room. "I really underestimated you. You played this game brilliantly, burdening me with massive debt to drive a wedge between Chloe and me, and now you're here playing the devoted child. Were you counting on using this dying person on the bed to drag me down with you?" Every word was like a knife, piercing my chest with precision. I looked at his twisted face and suddenly realized that the man I had loved for 10 years had long been ravaged beyond recognition by time. "I'm doing this only to make you see that she only loves your money." "So what about money? At least she makes me happy. What about you? What can you give me besides schemes and that mournful face?" I raised my head, fiercely pushing back my tears. "Fine, I get it. Leave, I'll handle the debt." I was about to return to the hospital room, but he dragged me back again. "Pay it now. Don't you dare try any more tricks on me. The money isn't on hand, I'll have to sell off." "Grace, I'm telling you, if you don't pay me back today, I'll make sure everyone in the world knows your true colors." Family of Bed 8. Patty. Auntie's heartbeat is abnormal. Before the words were out, a nurse sprang from behind the station, rushing toward us. In that instant, time and Marcus both froze in place. The door was kicked open, and the sharp beeping of the heart monitor, like a final judgment, utterly severed me from my former world. I crawled to the bedside, touching her face, which still held warmth but was now devoid of sensation. "Mom, please look at me one more time. If you leave, I'll be all alone in this world." In this moment, a profound silence fell, all life seemed to cease. The road ahead is long, but for us, there is no tomorrow. I finally gave up completely, no longer hoping he would return. Perhaps he was right. I just wanted to drag him into hell, to put an end to everything. Marcus didn't let me dwell for too long. Soon, he initiated a second round of litigation, the cause of action still post-divorce property disputes. But the core demand had changed, requesting the county to revoke the original divorce agreement's clause regarding the spacious condo and grant sole ownership of the property to him. Bullseye. Every step he took, I precisely anticipated. He seemed to have realized he couldn't just be led by the nose by me. Only by changing the property title could he put an end to it once and for all. I still went to county alone. Only this time I had nothing left to fear. Once a person has no worries, they become unstoppable. During the court debate, I lowered my head in shame. I agree to return the spacious condo's property title to the plaintiff. Marcus and his lawyer exchanged a look of triumph. Yes. Once he got the house, he could pay off the mortgage without any concerns. Both properties were in his hands. He seemed to be the ultimate winner. But my next words plunged everyone into silence. However, according to the divorce agreement that is already in effect, this property, and all associated rights and interests already belong to me. Therefore, the plaintiff needs to pay me a $2.6 million down payment and a $400,000 repayment portion. After speaking, I took out payment vouchers from 5 years ago from my bag. Also $3 million. I looked at him, subtly raising an eyebrow. No matter the outcome, I could accept it. And you? Could you? Absurd. This house has long fallen below its previous value. Now, it would be hard to sell even for $3 million. We are talking about the current market value of the house, not past investments. If you were planning not to pay the mortgage back then this entire divorce agreement was a fraud from the start. He then turned to the presiding judge. This woman exploited my eagerness to divorce and set up this financial trap. She is now an untrustworthy person, nothing she says can be believed. She even rented out the house during this period and transferred the rent money, which is clearly malicious debt evasion. He continued to try and appeal to the judge's emotions. I am the true victim in this scam. Not only do I have to pay her debts and protect my credit score, but now she also wants to extort another $3 million from me using a bunch of legal clauses? Is there any fairness left in this world? I softly curved my lips. I no longer argued. Would the judge rule the house in his favor? Perhaps. But the probability was tiny, and the conditions for Marcus extremely harsh. He needed to produce evidence that he was defrauded when he signed the agreement. But he couldn't prove it. After all, that divorce agreement itself was advantageous to him. He left the negative assets to me, the economically disadvantaged party, and took the positive assets himself. So, that was my real purpose in leaving him that house. I wasn't afraid to lose, because I was already at rock bottom, fearless. I could calmly accept any outcome, sinking into the mud. But he couldn't. His new life had only just begun. He still had Chloe in his bed, a woman he needed to maintain a respect. Table image 4. After hearing both parties' statements, the judge lightly tapped the gavel. Plaintiff, you claim the defendant committed fraud, but you failed to provide any valid evidence. The divorce agreement was signed voluntarily by both parties, and the associated business risks should be borne by you. Your demand for the defendant to return significant assets without compensation has no legal basis and severely violates the principle of fairness. Therefore, this court rejects all your litigation requests. Marcus rose angrily. She only paid the mortgage payment last month right before the enforcement deadline. This is clear proof of her malicious delay and lack of genuine intent to fulfill her obligations. Someone like her doesn't deserve to own property. The slightly frowned. Plaintiff, your claim that the defendant failed to make timely mortgage payments is a different legal relationship from the claims in this case and will not be addressed here. Please, both parties, confine your statements to today's core issues. I let out a long, slow breath. It seemed his battle was being fought with great difficulty. Defendant. This gaze then fell on me. Your claim for a $3 million property settlement is essentially a demand for the plaintiff to pay the necessary consideration for modifying the established divorce agreement. This claim has legal basis, and this court supports it. The court judgment is as follows. If Marcus insists on claiming property ownership, he must pay defendant a property settlement of RMB 3 million within 15 days from the effective date of this court judgment. Upon receiving payment, the defendant shall unconditionally cooperate with the property title transfer procedures. If the plaintiff fails to pay the aforementioned amount by the deadline, the original divorce agreement remains in effect, the property shall still belong to defendant, and the associated mortgage debt shall continue to be fulfilled as stipulated in the agreement. Court adjourned. The gavel fell, sealing the verdict. The next second, Marcus abruptly stood up. I object. This is clear favoritism. She's nothing but a cheat. The calmly looked at him. Plaintiff, the court upholds the agreement you personally signed. If you believed it was unfair, why did you sign it then? The law does not pay for adult recklessness. Those words were like a silent slap, leaving Marcus speechless. I raised my head, a subtle curve on my lips. I knew I didn't win because of the judge's sympathy, but because of the contract he had personally signed. The new life he craved was being locked down, layer by every choice he made. From then on, he seemed to have tacitly accepted the steep monthly mortgage payments. He never initiated another lawsuit because I refused to pay the mortgage. He knew better than anyone that if it came to court-ordered enforcement, I would certainly comply. But he couldn't afford a lawsuit every month. Yes. Ultimately, I had become the person I once despised. In this divorce battle, I was in a sorry state, covered in mud. Later, the nanny told me on the phone, Grace, the children's dad has been coming back to his parents' place a lot lately, even helping the eldest with homework every day. The old couple is showering him with criticism, and I gather they're forcing him to come back and apologize to you. Even beg on his knees. I silently hung up the phone. I knew things went sour between him and that woman. But that had nothing to do with me. Let the past stay in the past. I began to sort through the only inheritance my mother left behind, an old farmhouse with a private courtyard. I stood in the weed-choked courtyard, as if seeing my childhood self running there. Perhaps my children could also follow in my childhood footsteps and find a measure of peace here. That money would be enough to provide shelter and protection for them for a lifetime. I had the roof repaired and walls repainted. One sunny weekend, I went to grandparents' house to pick up the children. There, I saw Marcus. He looked utterly defeated, the light gone from his eyes. Grace, he croaked, do you have time to talk? I waved him off, holding my children tighter. No, my animals are waiting to be fed in the yard. Yes. Now, in my eyes, he was worse than dirt. Where did you get pigs and dogs? I didn't answer, simply buckled the children into the car, and the engine started. In the rearview mirror, his figure, frozen in place, grew smaller and smaller. Like our bloody, brutal marriage, he was finally left far behind, never to catch up. One day, an unfamiliar number appeared on my screen. Who is this? Hello, it's Chloe. My breath hitched. Chloe. Marcus's favorite, the one for whom he had abandoned his family. The show's almost over, and now you want to make an entrance? A moment of silence on the other end. Can we meet? Just say what you need to say, my animals are waiting. She choked slightly, her tone softening. Out of the 1.2 million Marcus gave you, 30,000 was mine. Now that his finances have collapsed, since you took the money, can you take him back and return my 30,000? I almost laughed with anger. You're trying to push back a worthless scoundrel that everyone despises as if he's a treasure? If he was willing to sell himself for money for me to spend, I'll keep it. You should save that blessing for yourself. She was speechless for a moment, then threatened, don't push me. All his current income is going to fill holes. If I cause a scene at his company and make him lose his job, none of you will have it easy. Something deep inside me stirred. What she said wasn't entirely unreasonable. So, my voice suddenly turned cold. Please, don't show him any mercy. It'll be perfect to let him become a credit defaulter once and for all. Your 30,000 will have served its purpose. With that, I hung up. Later, I heard from A.M. mutual friend that the other woman, with no legal recourse to collect the debt, filed a lawsuit against Marcus. Everything he had meticulously built was ultimately crushed between the two women he had chosen. This wasn't revenge, it was karma. When I received the court summons, I found it absurd. The woman named Chloe was suing Marcus for not repaying her 30,000, and I was summoned to appear in court as an interested party. As I stepped into the courtroom, my heart was calm. These two were already a past life's debt to me. Chloe, looking pitiful in the plaintiff's seat, described how Marcus had desperately begged her for a loan to get by, promising to repay her after the divorce. Marcus sat in the defendant's seat, his face ashen, avoiding my gaze throughout. Until the judge asked me, Defendant, are you aware of this $30,000 loan claimed by the plaintiff? I met their gaze, my tone composed. I was completely unaware of this matter. Before sitting here today, I didn't even know such a large sum of money had exchanged hands between them. The moment my words faded, Marcus suddenly stood up. I have new evidence. He clutched a thick stack of bank statements and receipts. Over the past 2 years, the money I spent on Chloe was far more than 30,000. All of this was marital assets shared with Grace. Marcus submitted the materials, then began frantically tearing into his former lover. In 2022, I bought her a luxury bag worth 50,000. I took her on a trip to Europe, an expense of 80,000. In 2023, for her brother's schooling, I transferred 100,000, and countless other transfers, 5,200, 13140. All of this combined already exceeds 500,000. So, the 30,000 she's claiming is actually compensation for my losses. The entire courtroom fell silent. And I stood there, as if struck by a bolt of lightning. Over 2 years. They had been entangled for over 2 years. All those late nights he claimed were for overtime or business trips, all that patience that had slowly vanished for me and the children. They now had the cruelest answer. My body swayed, and I barely managed to steady myself against the railing in front of me. When I looked up again, my eyes were cold. I raised my hand. Based on the new evidence submitted by defendant in court, I request additional claims. Only now have I confirmed that my ex-husband, during the marriage, long-term and maliciously concealed from me, freely gifted our marital assets to the plaintiff, Chloe. I now formally countersue, asking that all of Marcus's gifting actions to Chloe be deemed invalid due to harming his spouse's legal rights, and order Chloe to return every single item and the monetary value of all assets she received over the past 2 years, to me. Chloe, in the plaintiff's seat, turned deathly pale. What right do you have? He gave those to me voluntarily. I looked at her, my eyes full of mockery. Voluntarily? Every penny he used to appease you was half mine. You used my husband's money to destroy my family, and now you dare to come to court to collect a debt. Who gave you that audacity? Ultimately, the judge accepted my motion and consolidated the cases. 1. It was confirmed that Marcus's gifting to Chloe during the marriage was invalid. Chloe was ordered to return all gifted funds and the monetary value of assets received, totaling 513,000 renminbi, to Grace within 15 days of the judgment becoming effective. 2. The $30,000 loan relationship between plaintiff and defendant was established. This debt was to be borne solely by Marcus and had no relation to Grace. The gavel fell, sealing the verdict. Chloe completely collapsed in her seat, her face ashen. Not only did she fail to recover a single penny, but she also incurred a debt of over 500,000. Marcus, meanwhile, looked at me intently. I picked up the court judgment, walked between them, and didn't spare them another GLA. NCE. Behind me, Chloe's furious curses erupted, but my heart was completely unmoved. Later, seeing that things had come to this, Chloe clung to Marcus like a vine. By now, Marcus had seen through her completely and felt only annoyance. Seeing her lingering at his house every day, he simply sold the property he had received at a fire sale price of 1.5 million, using the money to pay off his 1.2 million loan. Then, with his lawyer as a witness, Marcus took the 513,000 Chloe had repaid him, transferred the remaining 300,000 directly to my account. From that point, Chloe's debt to me went from 513,000 to 213,000, and was completely done with her. He then vanished completely from Chloe's life, staying at a friend's house. He also blocked all of Chloe's contact information. Chloe went to cause a scene at his workplace a few times, but he simply resigned, vanishing into thin air. What I didn't expect was that he had vanished to Maplewood, my town. He started lingering outside my farmhouse every day, sometimes standing silently, sometimes trying to speak to me. My big yellow dog finally came in handy. As soon as he arrived, I'd unleash him. General, get him. I could live without a man, but I absolutely needed a loyal dog. As for Chloe, she vanished from this city. She was left with the label of a credit defaulter and an unpayable debt of 213,000. She also joined the ranks of credit defaulters. Fate, sometimes, is this ironic? What you desperately chase often eludes you. What you calmly let go of often arrives unexpectedly. 2 years later, that old farmhouse with a private courtyard, which I had intended to live out my days in, was unexpectedly designated for demolition. A compensation payment of $6 million suddenly landed in my account. But I didn't tell anyone. Instead, I quietly left Maplewood with my 2 children and the big yellow dog. The engine started, leaving everything from the past far behind. We began our true journey, 3 people and 1 dog, Roman G. Freely. We saw the misty rain of the Bluebell, stayed in inns in Lakeview, and left shallow footprints on the beaches of Emerald. Finally, in a seaside nestled by mountains and sea, we stopped. The climate there was mild and humid, with flowers blooming all year round. I completed the enrollment procedures for my children and watched them run into their new school with their backpacks. It turned out, life without a man was no different. The days ahead might still bring storms, but my soul, however, was freer than ever. In this world, no shackles could ever confine a woman whose spirit had awakened, a woman deeply rooted in her own life. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.